Winston Churchill, the man who defied Hitler and saved Britain. Full store. Welcome to our channel. Today, we uncover the incredible life of a man who didn't just write history, he stood in its way and changed its course. This is the untold, unforgettable, and unshakable story of Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister who faced down Adolf Hitler, united a shattered Britain, and gave the world one of its greatest wartime leaders. He was born into privilege, but chose war over comfort. He tasted failure many times, but never surrendered. He inspired millions with nothing but words, and helped save democracy from the brink of destruction. But Churchill wasn't just a war hero, he was a complex, controversial, brilliant force of nature. A man who battled depression, faced constant criticism, and made both historic triumphs and terrible mistakes. So who was Winston Churchill, really? Was he the Lion of Britain, or the last roar of an empire in decline? From the trenches of World War I to the bomb shelters of London during the Blitz, from political exile to world domination, this is the real story of Winston Churchill, like you've never heard before. Stay tuned, because this isn't just history, it's the story of how one voice changed the world. Born to lead, Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was born on November 30, 1874, at Blenheim Palace in England. His father, Lord Randolph Churchill, was a powerful politician. His mother, Jenny Jerome, was a glamorous American socialite. Winston was born into wealth, fame, and expectation, but not love. He struggled in school, was rebellious, and had a stutter. But he had something else too, relentless determination. At 20, he joined the British Army and saw combat in India, Sudan, and South Africa, where he famously escaped a Boer prison camp. His daring escape made headlines and catapulted him into fame. By 26, he was elected to Parliament. By 34, he was a cabinet minister. He wrote books, gave speeches, and charmed crowds. But he also made enemies. Then came World War I, and one of Churchill's biggest failures. As First Lord of the Admiralty, he masterminded the Gallipoli campaign, which ended in disaster. Thousands died. Churchill resigned in disgrace. But he didn't quit. He joined the army, fought in the trenches of France, and waited for his moment. He knew, history would call on him again. The wilderness years, the 1920s and 30s were difficult for Churchill. He was out of power, out of favor, and considered old-fashioned. He warned Parliament about the growing threat of Nazi Germany, but few listened. While Britain tried to appease Hitler, Churchill stood alone, sounding the alarm. Do not suppose that this is the end, he warned. It is only the beginning. His speeches were ignored. His career seemed finished. But then came September 1939. Hitler invaded Poland. Britain declared war. And suddenly, the world needed a voice of strength. That voice was Churchill's. We shall never surrender. On May 10, 1940, Winston Churchill became Prime Minister of Britain, at the darkest hour. Europe was collapsing. Hitler had conquered Poland, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, and the Netherlands. France was on the brink. Britain stood alone. People expected Churchill to negotiate peace. Instead, he stood before Parliament and gave one of the most electrifying speeches in history. We shall go on to the end, we shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall never surrender. These words echoed through bomb shelters, across radio waves, and into the hearts of millions. Under Churchill's leadership, Britain endured the Blitz, when Nazi planes bombed London night after night. Buildings crumbled, families died, but the people stood firm. And Churchill stood with them. He toured bomb sites, spoke with soldiers, smoked his cigars, and rallied his country with every breath. He also built key alliances, especially with President Franklin D. Roosevelt of the United States. Together, they laid the foundations of what would become the Allied victory. Victory and legacy. In 1944, Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy. D-Day had begun. By 1945, Hitler was dead, and Nazi Germany had surrendered. Churchill stood victorious. But the war had changed everything. The British Empire was weakened. The people wanted social reform. And shockingly, just months after winning the war, Churchill lost the 1945 general election. He was devastated, but gracious. He spent his later years writing, painting, and traveling. He returned as Prime Minister once more in 1951, but his health declined. In 1955, he finally retired. In 1965, at the age of 90, Winston Churchill died. The world mourned the passing of a titan. He was given a state funeral, the first for a non-royal since the Duke of Wellington. Chapter 5. The man behind the legend 700 words. Winston Churchill was not perfect. He made mistakes. He held controversial views about empire, race, and colonialism. His role in the Bengal famine of 1943, where millions died, remains a stain on his record. He battled depression, what he called his black dog. He drank heavily. He was stubborn, theatrical, and at times ruthless. But he was also brilliant, bold, and unbreakable. He believed in freedom. He spoke with power. He stood alone when others bowed to fear. His speeches were not just words, they were weapons. And in the end, Churchill's voice helped save a nation and inspire the world. Churchill today. More than half a century after his death, Churchill remains a giant in history. Statues of him stand across Britain. His face is on the £5 note. His books still sell. His quotes still inspire. Hollywood films, documentaries, and YouTube videos like this one revisit his story again and again. Because Churchill wasn't just a politician, he was an idea. The idea that in the darkest hour, courage is everything. The idea that words can change the world. And the idea that even when you're alone, standing for what's right is always worth it. Winston Churchill once said, "To each, there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and asked to do something unique to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared." Churchill was prepared. For war, for pain, for greatness. He wasn't flawless, but he was fearless. From a stuttering schoolboy to a wartime prime minister, from failure to legacy, Churchill proved that resilience is stronger than reputation, and leadership is born in fire. Thank you for watching. If you were inspired by Churchill's story, hit like, share with your friends, and subscribe for more epic true stories from history. Let us know in the comments, which Churchill quote do you think best fits today's world? Until next time, remember, never, never, never give up.